hours you're at the hospital, the more likely they're going to push being induced or getting Pitocin, or, they want you to they don't want you to be in labor many hours without nothing. So I'm like thinking, okay, well, I need to stay at home and make sure this is for real labor. So I wait, and I have another one about 5 minutes apart, and I have one of these little apps, that it's a contraction timer. And so I'm like hitting the contraction timer, and it was like exactly 5 minutes apart. And I'm like, okay. And so another thing they tell you is wait till it's an hour consistent. Don't just rush to the hospital when you have 2 contractions. Like, you need to make sure they're consistent. So I wake up Sean and say, hey, I'm going to go take a bath. I think these are contractions, but I don't know. I'll let you know. So,
all right, pause right there. Now let's just kick it to where my mind state was at, just briefly, before you go take the bath. And I was in a good sleep. I just had, I'm in a good sleep. So I'm like, huh? And then she says, well, I got this birth app and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to go take a bath. They might not be contractions. So I'm used to just the way she been moving around the last week. Like, I don't think he's coming. I don't think he's coming. So I go and I lay back down thinking he's not coming. So I lay back and I go to sleep. Now you in the bathtub. Now what?
So I have my little app beside me, and like I did the full-fledged relaxation bath. Like, this is the big thing with the birth moms, like dim lights, candles, your diffusers, essential oils, So I'm just
the birth moms.
I'm just sitting in there chilling, like I'm just gonna relax and time these contractions. So like I take a bath, and they like keep coming 5 minutes apart, but it had only been like maybe 20 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I still have like a little ways before it's an hour, But I go ahead and get out of the bath, and I'm like, okay, they're still pretty consistent. And then I'm like debating on calling my family, because they're an hour away. And I'm like, I do not want to wake them up and have them come all the way here unless I'm really in labor. And I just don't know if I am or not, because it's only been like 30 minutes. You're supposed to wait an hour. And so by then, I'm like blow drying my hair and, just trying to keep my mind off this, putting on makeup.
No, you wasn't worried about. You was just trying to like, okay, if I'm going to the hospital, I want to look decent. I want to look good.
And that crossed my mind too.
Yeah,
for sure. But I honestly I didn't know. I'm thinking that I might be in the early stages of labor, but at this point, I really didn't know. They were a little uncomfortable, but they didn't hurt too bad.
Yeah, I knew it was hurting, but to get your hair fixed up and makeup and like I thought you was going to the mall or something. Like, you was dressing up, and then you throw this fit about this little nightgown. I gotta have my nightgown. What's you finna have a baby? What are you talking about?
I look back on pictures from my firstborn, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm just in my head. I'm thinking, if I'm gonna do this, it's my last baby, my last pregnancy. Like, I want to be prepared. So I was prepared all the way around. Anyway, so it had been close to about an hour, like 45 minutes, and I was like, okay, this is it. I felt like my contractions, they immediately started getting closer together. Like, before you know it, it was like 5 minutes apart, and then they were 2 minutes apart. Like, so I had like 3 or 4 contractions that were 2 minutes apart. So I send the text message to my dad, my sister, and my mom. And I'm thinking, okay, they'll have plenty of time to get here. And in the meantime, Sean, he's up out of bed, and I tell him, you need to start calling Juju's family to get her, because she would have not. She hates hospitals. She would have not done. I didn't want her to go through that, anyways.
It would have been a bad situation. My older daughter's autistic, so she doesn't do good with transitioning. So we wake her up at 3, 4 in the morning and take her to a hospital, which she hates. It was going to be a tough situation to try to handle Juju and participate in being there for the birth of my son, which it just would have been chaotic. So I'm calling, trying to, get Juju's mom together, get a stepdad, trying to get a hold of somebody to meet me so I can drop Ju off and go take Special to the hospital so we can get ready to go through this long, drawn out boxing match of labor. Mm-hmm. So That's where I was at. We leave the house.
We get all the stuff together, and
yeah,
I want to say they were still around a minute and a half to 2 minutes apart. And as we got everything together and we're walking out the door, like, I noticed that they are starting to feel pretty bad. Like, I can't just stand there and act like nothing's wrong. Like, I had to stop on the way to the car and hold the wall, like, okay, like, these are getting pretty bad, you know. And this whole time, you know, I've just been standing up. Like, it just feels better just to stand up. At one point, I remember Sean saying, don't you need to sit down? I'm like, no, I just want to stand.
Yeah, because you was riding in the car, like, knees down, facing backwards.
Well, Sean, we ain't to that point yet.
My fault. My bad. Take over the podcast. My bad.
So anyways, he finally gets a hold of someone, and I'm thinking, man, I hope that they can come to the hospital, because I mean, I'm in some pain right now, and I'm thinking, like, I want to be in the hospital because this pain is getting pretty bad.
But my mind, what was my mind state there thinking?
Yeah, we have all this time, and I'm still thinking that we have time, but I just know it's hurting more. So we go to Quick Trip down the road to try to meet up with her mom. We get to Quick Trip, and he cannot get a hold of her mom, like calling. And I was like, Sean, I've got to stand up. I cannot sit in this car anymore. Like, I'm just going to get out and stand up at this parking lot. So I get up and stand up, and I feel another contraction come, and all of a sudden, it's just a big burst. Like, water went everywhere, all over the cement. I'm like, Sean, my water. And he's on the phone. He finally gets a hold of her stepdad, like, while my water's bursting. And they live in Coweta, so it's like a 20-minute drive. He's like, I'll be there. And I was like, Sean, we cannot stay at this. We cannot stay at this gas station. We've got to go to the hospital. Please ask him to come to the hospital. And he was like, man, you got to come to the hospital. And so
I told him that, but I'm still thinking, okay, we still got time. Like, I'm thinking, okay, we can make this, like, but when the water broke, this big old brown just puddle of stuff just, and then, like, you hear it's like a big splash just. And then she looked down, and I'm like, oh, man, this is getting real.
And I knew at that point, like, I could feel a lot of pressure. It wasn't like, I knew in my mind then that it could be a lot sooner than what we all thought. But so I get back in the car, and all I can think about is all this pressure. I'm feeling like I cannot sit down. So I get in the car on my knees, facing backwards, looking right at Juju. She's in the car seat just looking at me.
And she's just screaming back and just like,
oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
I tell Sean, we only had about like a maybe 6-7 minute drive, if that. And I'm telling Sean, like, I'm looking at Juju, and this is when it started hurting. Like, I was screaming, and I said, Sean, I'm scared. He said, what are you scared for? I was like, I just feel like we're going to have the baby in the car. And I guess he still didn't put 2 and 2 together that we was getting pretty close to this, because I'm feeling like, man, it just happened so fast, and I'm feeling like, man, this can't be early stages of labor. This has to be, because all this pain and the pressure I'm feeling, it's crazy.
Yeah, and now I'm on a highway. I'm just flying like, no. All right, we going to get there. We get there. I'm trying to talk to her, trying to keep Juju calm.
And Juju was calm. That's what's so crazy is, like, I felt like she knew. She can't talk to us, but she was looking at me and just sitting there like she knew something was up. And then I couldn't even really think about her, but it crossed my mind later. Like, she was acting so good, like she knew something was up.
Yeah, it was crazy. So we flying there. I'm flying. Boom, pull up to the hospital emergency room or whatever. And I hop out, and then I'm like, I went to get a wheelchair for.
Yeah, and I was like, no, just wait in the car, wait for him to get here. Don't even bring Juju in. Like,
that's what she said, wait. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm still thinking this time, all right, I'm going to wait down here with my baby till her stepdad comes. Boom, get up there, get ready for labor. Now, remember, y'all heard that on the podcast. She said, wait in the car. Yeah. Wait in the car with Juju. Now, go ahead. What happens when you get up there?
So I'm like, I can't wait for no wheelchair. Like, I'm just going to walk up there. I already knew where the place was because we had a visit a couple months before. So I walked through there, and I have to go to the bathroom. I know that sounds crazy. People's like, why would you even go to the bathroom? But I had to go to the bathroom. I was like, I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom.
Wait. Was it a number one or number two?
A baby was being pushed out, and like I had to handle it. And like someone's like, "How could you? What if the baby would have came out in the toilet?" I'm like, I had to go to the bathroom, so I stopped. And like there was nobody in the hospital. Like it's 4:30 in the morning by this time, and so I go and I get in the elevator. And I remember that I will never look at that elevator the same ever, because I was in there by myself. And I pressed number 2, and I held the rails, and I let out the loudest scream. I mean, I had a horrible contraction on the way up. And so I'm like hunched over, barely making it out of this elevator. And it's like a glass door, and I'm still yelling, and they hear me. So they open the door for me, and there's 2, nurses at the desk, and they're like, let me get you a wheelchair. And I'm like, okay. And so they come get a wheelchair. And again, I cannot sit down. So I get in the wheelchair on my knees, facing towards the lady. And so she's pushing me down the hall. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like, how am I riding in this wheelchair? I'm like, oh, just let me stand back up. So I'm like, I got it. And she tells me where to go. And I go around the corner, and I'm like screaming again. And like, I don't know what they were all thinking. Once I turned the corner at the actual nurse station, there was like, 4 or 5 different nurse techs or, whatever they were. And I don't know what they're thinking. I'm thinking they're probably just thinking, I'm being dramatic. I'm still in, I don't know what they're thinking. But they get me into a room immediately. And I had to go, I went to the bathroom. And I just remember someone yelling, she's bearing down. And I guess in their terms, that's just looks like you're pushing, like I'm trying to push. And I'm like, I'm not bearing down, like I can't help it. And they were like, stop bearing down, get out of the bathroom. And so...
So wait, hold on. So you had to take a number 2 on your way up there, and then when you got up there, you had to take another number 2?
No, I just felt like I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to like go back in the bathroom. I was actually going to sit back down on the toilet, and they were like, no. But when I went in there, I held on to that rail, and I felt another contraction, and I was like, and it like your body like takes over. Like my body was pushing down, and it may have looked like I was sitting there just pushing with all my might, but I really wasn't. And that's what they were freaking out about, is because I was still standing up and... Hold on. I was still standing up, and that's just like a danger sign, because they haven't checked me yet. They don't know how far I'm dilated. They don't even know if I'm really close or really far away, anything. So the nurses start coming in the room, and they're like, can you get up on the bed so we can check you? And I'm like, oh, I cannot lay down. Please don't make me lay down. Please don't make me lay down. I just remember saying that. And they were like, well, we need to check you. And I was like, well... And so I just got on my hands and knees, same position in the bed, and they checked me that way. And all I remember hearing them say is, she's complete. And it's like after that, like everyone started wheeling all their stuff in, and I stand back up, and they're like, no, you need to lay down or get. And I'm like, I cannot. And they were like, just get in the bed. And I guess they just thought, he was going to come out right there on the floor. And so I get in the bed. And the next thing you know, I just stand up on this bed. I'm standing up on the hospital bed, and I'm having my contractions up there, screaming as loud as I can. In the meantime, I'm like, nobody's here. I'm not going to have anybody here with me. And they were like, what do you mean? I guess they thought, I'm just coming to have this baby by myself, because I came in by myself. They said, are you supposed to have somebody here? And I was like, yeah, I do have a husband, but I don't know where the key is. And so they're like, well, it's okay. And I was like, he's somewhere in the parking lot. And I was like, it's a long story. And I feel like they're trying to like kind of distract me, because they're like, do you have any other kids? How old? And I'm like, oh my, I can't answer these questions. Y'all see me up here. So the head nurse walks in, and she was like, what is she doing on that bed? Get her down from that bed. She cannot stand on that bed. And they're all trying to explain, like she's saying she can't lay down, she can't get down. And I'm like, just,